Hey, squirrel listeners! Whoops. Whoops. Did you see too much of Granny's bosoms? Shirt's a little revealing. There we go. Let's see. What chapter are we on? 13, part 2. And she had just said about the... Let's see what she said. No, we've had enough of that. Women have been called queens a long time, but the kingdom given them isn't worth ruling, answered Rebecca. That's the last thing I said. I don't think it is nowadays, said Fanny with a tired sort of sigh. Put a man's hand in hers to help her along, then, said Polly, whose happy fortune it had been to find friends and helpers in father and brothers. No, my woman is to stand alone and help herself, said Rebecca decidedly. She's to be strong-minded, is she? And Fanny's lip curled a little as she uttered the misused words. Yes, strong-minded, strong-hearted, strong-souled, and strong-bodied. That's why I made her larger than the miserable, pinched-up woman of our day. Strength and beauty must go together. Don't you think these broad shoulders can bear burdens without breaking down? These hands work well, these eyes see clearly, and these lips do something besides simper and gossip. Fanny was silent, but a voice from Bess's corner said, Put a child in her arms, Becky. Not that even, for she has to be something more than a nurse. Give her a ballot box, cried a new voice, and turning around they saw an odd-looking woman perched on a sofa behind them. Thank you for the suggestion, Kate. I'll put that with the other symbols at her feet, for I'm going to have needle, pen, palette, and broom somewhere to suggest the various talents she owns, and the ballot box will show that she has earned the right to use them. How goes it? And Rebecca offered a clay-daubed hand, which the newcomer cordially shook. Great news, girls. Anna is going to Italy, cried Kate, tossing up her bonnet like a schoolboy. Oh, how splendid. Who takes her? Has she had a fortune left her? Tell all about it, exclaimed the girls, gathering round the speaker. Yes, it is splendid. Just one of the beautiful things that does everybody heaps of good. It's so generous and so deserved. You know, Anna has been longing to go, working and hoping for a chance and never getting it, till, all of a sudden, Miss Burton is inspired to invite the girl to go with her for several years to Italy. Think of the luck of that dear soul, the advantages she'll have, the good it will do her, and best of all, the lovely way in which it comes to her. Miss Burton wants her as a friend. Ask nothing of her but her company, and Anna will go through fire and water for her, of course. Now, isn't that fine? It was good to see how heartily these girls sympathized in their comrade's good fortune. Polly danced all over the room. Bess and Becky hugged one another, and Kate laughed with her eyes full, while even Fanny felt the glow of pride and pleasure at the kind act. Who is that? She whispered to Polly, who had subsided into a corner. Why, it's Kate King, the authoress. Bless me, how rude not to introduce you. Here, my king, is an admirer of yours, Fanny Shaw, and my well-beloved friend, cried Polly, presenting Fan, who regarded the shabby young woman with as much respect as if she had been arrayed in velvet and ermine, for Kate had written a successful book by accident and happened to be the fashion just then. It's time for lunch, girls, and I brought mine along with me. It's so much jollier to eat in sisterhood. Let's club together and have a revel, said Kate, producing a bag of oranges and several big plummy buns. We've got sardines, crackers, and cheese, said Bess, clearing off a table with all speed. Wait a bit, and I'll add my share, cried Polly, and catching up her cloak, she ran off to the grocery store nearby. You'll be shocked at our performances, Miss Shaw, but you can call it a picnic and never tell what dreadful things you saw us do," said Rebecca, polishing a paint knife by rubbing it up and down in a pot of ivy, while Kate spread forth the feast in several odd plates and in a flat shell or two. "Let us have coffee to finish off with. Put on the pot, Bess, and skim the milk," added Becky as she produced cups, mugs, and a queer little vase to supply drinking vessels for the party. "Here's nuts, a pot of jam, and some cake. Fan likes sweet things, and we want to be elegant when we have company," said Polly, flying in again and depositing her share on the table. "Now then, file to, ladies, and help yourselves. Never mind if the china don't hold out. Take the sardines by their little tails and wipe your fingers on my brown paper napkins," said Kate, setting the example with such a relish that the others followed in a gale of merriment. Fanny had been to many elegant lunches, but never enjoyed one more than the droll picnic in the studio, for there was a freedom about it that was charming, an artistic flavor to everything, and such a spirit of goodwill and gaiety that she felt at home at once. As they ate, the others talked, and she listened. Finding it as interesting as any romance to hear these young women discuss their plans, ambitions, successes, and defeats. It was a new world to her, and they seemed a different race of creatures from the girls whose lives were spent in dress, gossip, pleasure, or ennui. They were girls still, full of spirits, fun, and youth, but below the lightheartedness each cherished a purpose which seemed to ennoble her womanhood, to give her a certain power, a sustaining satisfaction, a daily stimulus that led her on to daily effort, and in no time to some success in circumstance or behavior which was worth all the patience, hope, and labor of her life. Fanny was just then in the mood to feel the beauty of this, for the sincerest emotion she had ever known was beginning to make her dissatisfied with herself and the aimless life she led. Men must respect such girls as these, she thought, yes, and love them too, for in spite of their independence, they are womanly. I wish I had a talent to live for. It would do so much. It would do as much for me, if it would do as much for me as it does for them. It is this sort of thing that is improving Polly, that makes her society interesting to Sydney, and herself so dear to everyone. Money can't buy these things for me, and I want them very much. As these thoughts were passing through her mind, Fanny was hearing all sorts of topics discussed with feminine enthusiasm and frankness. Art, morals, politics, society, books, religion, housekeeping, dress, and economy, and the minds and tongues roved from subject to subject with youthful rapidity, and seemed to get something from the driest and the dullest. "How does the new book come on?" asked Polly, sucking her orange in public with a composure which would have scandalized the good ladies of Cranford. "Better than it deserves. My children, beware of popularity. It is a delusion and a snare. It puffeth up the heart of man, and especially of woman. It blindeth the eye to faults. It exalteth unduly the humble powers of the victim. It is apt to be capricious, and just as one gets to liking the taste of this intoxicating draught, it suddenly faileth, and one is left gasping like a fish out of water. And Kate emphasized her speech by spearing a sardine with a penknife and eating it with a groan. "It won't hurt you much. I guess you have worked and waited so long, a large dose will do you good," said Rebecca, giving her a generous spoonful of jam, as if eager to add as much sweetness as possible to all life that had not been an easy one. "When are you and Becky going to dissolve partnership?" asked Polly, eager for news of all. "Never. George knows he can't have one without the other, and has not suggested such a thing as parting us. There's always room in my house for Becky, and she lets me do as she would if she was in my place," answered Bess, with a look which her friend answered by a smile. "The lover won't separate this pair of friends, you see," whispered Polly to Fan. Bess is to be married in the spring, and Becky is to live with her. By the way, Polly, I've got some tickets for you. People are always sending me such things, and as I don't care for them, I'm glad to make them over to you young and giddy infants. There are passes for the statuary exhibition. Becky shall have those. Here are the concert tickets for you, my music girl, and that is for a course of lectures on literature, which I'll keep for myself." As Kate dealt out the colored cards to the grateful girls, Fanny took a good look at her, wondering if the time would ever come when the woman could earn a little money and success without paying such a heavy price for them. For Kate looked sick, tired, and too early old. Then her eye went to the unfinished statue, and she said impulsively, "I hope you'll get that. Hope you'll put that in marble and show us what we ought to be." "I wish I could," and an intense desire shone in Rebecca's face, as if she saw her faulty work and felt how fair her model was. For a minute, the 5 young women sat silent, looking up at the beautiful, strong figure before them, each longing to see it done, and each unconscious that she was helping by her individual effort and experience to bring the day when their noblest ideal of womanhood should be embodied in flesh and blood, not clay. "The city bells ring 1, said Polly, starting up. "I must go, for I promised a neighbor of mine a lesson or 2. "I thought this was a holiday," said Fanny. "So it is, but this is a little labor of love, and doesn't spoil the day at all. The child has talent, loves music, and needs help. I can't give her money, but I can teach her, so I do, and she is the most promising pupil I have. Help one another is part of the religion of our sisterhood, Fan. I must put you in a story, Polly. I want a heroine, and you will do," said Kate. "Me? Why? There never was such a humdrum romantic thing as I am," cried Polly, amazed. "I've booked you nevertheless, so in you go, but you may add as much romance as you like. It's time you did." "I'm ready for it when it comes, but it can't be forced, you know," and Polly blushed and smiled as if some little spice of that delight gone. I can't turn into more pages. Get sleepy again. Oh my gosh. I had a terrible time sleeping last night. Probably because I had a huge nap trying to hang out with Natalie last night. Natalie's closet. It can't be forced, you know. Polly blushed and smiled as if some little spice of that delightful thing had stolen into her life for all its prosaic seeming. And I'm going to stop right there. No, I'm almost done. Never mind. Stolen her life for all its prosaic seeming. Fanny was amused to see that the girls did not kiss at parting, but shook hands in a quiet, friendly fashion, looking at one another with eyes that said more than the most gushing words. I like your friends very much, Polly. I was afraid I should find them mannish and rough or sentimental and conceited, but they are simple, sensible creatures full of talent and all sorts of fine things. I admire and respect them and want to go again if I may. Oh, Fan, I'm so glad. I hoped you'd like them. I knew they'd do you good, and I'll take you any time, for you stood the test better than I expected. Becky asked to bring you again, and she seldom does that for fashionable young ladies, let me tell you. I would be ever so much better, and I want to be ever so much better, and I think you and they might show me how, said Fanny with a traitorous tremble in her voice. We'll show you the sunny side of poverty and work, and that is a useful lesson for anyone, Miss Mills says, answered Polly, hoping that Fan would learn how much the poor can teach the rich and what helpful friends girls may be to one another when they're not being mean girls. I said that, not them. Okay. Next chapter will be chapter 14. Tomorrow, good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, and it's called Nipped in the Bud. I hope that means Tom and Trix. We'll see. Have a wonderfully crafty night. And it's Wednesday, so I can't remember what all goes on Wednesday evening, but hope you get something done, or have fun doing whatever you do. Let me get in here and try to get something done. Some knit and crochet. Love y'all. Be sweet, don't be ugly. Bye-bye.